Hello and welcome to the final of our GCSE review and recap series, which is going to be on OCR History B's History Around Us topic. Throughout the course of this series, I'm going to be showing you all of the content that you need to know for this particular module, as well as how to answer the different types of exam questions that you're going to be facing when it comes to the real thing. Now, the first thing to make you aware of is that this is a generic study. Each site across the UK who study OCR History B, each school will have a different local site. The idea behind this module is that it's supposed to be history around you, around the local area that you are currently studying in. So, the site that we have chosen to use as Dormston School is Himley Hall. Now, you won't see on your exam paper any mention of Himley Hall. You need to know that Himley Hall is your site, and like I said, it's quite a generic paper, so it won't mention that anywhere. So just be aware of the fact that our site, the site that we're choosing to study, is Himley Hall, because that's local to us in the Dormston area. So, what do you need to know when it comes to history around us and our study of our site of Himley Hall? Well, the first thing that you need to be aware of is that there are different time periods. There are three main time periods that you need to know. The first of these time periods is prior to 1740. So what Himley Hall's physical features, people and purpose was like before 1740. And we call this time period prior to 1740. The second time period that you need to be aware of is between 1740 and about the 1850s. This is a period of massive change, and we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail in a future video. The third time period that you need to be aware of is between the 1900s and present. Now, during this time period, again, there is very significant change, and we actually need to treat the 1900s to present as though it's mini time periods within the larger time periods. So, there's 1900s to 1941. Then it's 1941 to 47, 47 to 66, and 66 up to the present day. Again, we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in a future video, but just be aware of the fact that in the 1900s to present, there are mini time periods that you need to be aware of. So those are our three time periods that we're going to be looking at throughout the course of this series. For each of those time periods that I've mentioned, you need to know the following: the physical features of the site. What I mean by that is, how does the site, the building and the estate physically change throughout its history? In each of your paragraphs in your essay questions, you must mention physical features. If you don't mention physical features, you won't be able to access the mark scheme. You also need to know the people that used or owned the site. Now, the site that we're looking at, Himley Hall, changes hands quite dramatically throughout its history. So you need to be aware of who the different people or organisations are and what exactly it is that they're using it for. And that leads me on to my final point. You need to know the purpose of the site in each time period. What actually is the site being used for? What are the estates around the area being used for? How does that change over time? This is a knowledge paper. There will be no interpretations and there'll be no sources on the question itself. You don't need to go away and study any source analysis or interpretation analysis for Himley. It is going to be essay questions purely based on your knowledge. Again, I will do a video later on in the series explaining exactly how you go about answering these knowledge questions. There are marks available for spelling and grammar on this paper. It's the only exam out of the exams that you're going to do for OCR History B where your spelling and grammar matters. Now, I don't want you to panic about this, but it just means that you need to be confident in accurately spelling physical features, the people, the purposes of the site. Things like capital letters for Himley and Hall are really important. These are really easy marks to pick up, so make sure that you spend some time really focusing on your spelling and grammar in the actual essay questions. Finally, you need to be aware of the second order concepts that run throughout Himley Hall. Now again, these second order concepts aren't new. You're going to have to talk about them in all of the exams that you do for history. But you need to be aware of the changes and continuities of Himley throughout its history. What causes the different changes and what are the consequences of them? Are there any similarities between different time periods, or are there any differences in its physical features, its people or its purpose? Again, those second order concepts aren't new to you, but you need to think very clearly about how Himley is evolving and changing throughout its history. This is the first of our videos on the reviewing recap series for Himley Hall. In the next episode, we're going to be taking a look at the first time period prior to 1740, where we'll delve into the physical features, the people and the purpose.